Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TRE podcast. I'm your host, Matt Salesio, here with another exceptional guest. We got Marcus calling in all the way from San Francisco, right, Marcus?
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks for coming on the show. I know this is a really great episode topic that we haven't dove into yet, so I'm excited today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good. Excited to be here. Thanks, Matt.
Of course, of course. I'm glad we connected and we got introduced because, like I said, you have a very new age topic that we haven't spoken about, and I know listeners will find an immense value in it. Now, before we always jump into the episode topics or the conversation, I like to ask my guests, do you have an intention today for our listeners listening today? What do you hope they take away? What do you hope they gain? What's your intention with our episode?
Oh, I'd love that people could walk away something like very practical that they can just immediately use in their daily life to get some like instant benefit.
I love that. Yeah, practicality is the way we like to do things here at Revive. So, even with your app, which we're going to speak about in a second, it's all about just allowing you to take that action so easily, so seamlessly. But where I want to dive into first is getting into your personal wellness journey because I understand you were a little frustrated at the beginning when you were trying out a bunch of different tools for your physical and mental well-being, but you came up like short, I would say, for lack of a better term, but then stumbled across sound healing. So just take us through that frustration pattern. What did you try? What didn't work? And then how did you stumble on sound here?
Yeah, thanks for asking about it. I was a composer and musician full time before I became a founder of Olo, and I was playing 100 shows a year. So every third day I would be playing somewhere, traveling all the time, late evenings, concert, early morning flights, and like messed up schedule. Food was random. Everything was kind of like against the well-being of the body and the mind. And I really started to look for like I gotta find some tools, otherwise this kind of fall apart. And so I looked into yoga, meditation, neurolinguistic programming, biohacking. That was like 15 years ago, so it was a bit in the beginning still, ordering weird powders to your home and see what happens. Um, and then different types of kind of whatever I could get my hands on, different types of active meditations and things like this. And I noticed that, okay, there's a quite big barrier of learning something in order to get to the results. And there was a lot of this kind of fake it till you make it kind of message of just keep on going, just build up that muscle and just like try to get over the hump in order to get to the results. And it was this intense seeking. And even though I could do certain things quite okay, like I could learn the poses or learn the breathing techniques, I still felt like it was quite forced. And especially as a composer, I was starting to look like all these meditation, mindfulness apps and things out there had content. But the content was often like some kind of rain track or some kind of sound that was static and pretty flat. And in my opinion, a little bit like B quality, to be honest. And it felt
Mm.
like that I had to kind of try to work pretty hard to make use of that. And I wasn't sure if it was actually moving the needle that much. And I asked myself, like, but this could be 100 times better. Why isn't anyone doing it? Or like, what if the sound quality would be the production value of Pixar movies? What if we would really put a big effort on it? And around the same time, I met my co-founder, Katerina, who's a somatic therapist. So we went to this quest, like, what's the therapeutic potential of immersive uh, experiences and somatic uh, perspective, which is like listen to the body, like instead of kind of top down with your mind, like what is actually your body saying? Because it's not, we're different, we wired differently. And we started to do a lot of workshops and discovered that actually the problem was not to validate if sound is powerful, but it was more like this is so powerful that we have to like think about how do we create a safe container around it and what's the best way to build the structure around it. But basically what we did was we went to high biodiversity places, recorded sound nature sounds in 3D. So I was actually literally in the jungle with the mic with hours on end. We record over 1,000 hours. Then we created sound journeys interweaving music and nature sounds together, and then have special speaker systems. Or then now we have an app with headphones, and it was really like if it's really immersive, it works kind of like a teleport, and it is a neurosensory modulator, has an effect on your brain frequencies and on your nervous system. So that's the journey. But the frustration was really about the quality of the content in the beginning.
Yeah, it just wasn't moving the needle in the way that you wanted it to, right? That's where the B quality was coming in for you.
Yeah, because I felt like a lot of this, there was a really great marketing out there, but it felt like everyone was a platform outsourcing the content or getting it from outside. And I felt like if this is the beef of the product, that should be done in-house and researched more.
Yes, and you bring your own professional expertise to it, and again, you get the highs and the lows and the volatility of it rather than the flat like other meditation apps or other wellness apps would have. But I'm curious, Marcus, like how did you stumble upon sound? Like why was that the one where you said that's
Mhm.
actually going to move the needle?
So
Was it
I think,
personal
yeah,
experience? Yeah, tell
it
me,
was
tell me.
personal. Like I had gone through a big life transition with, you know, breakup, changing my identity as from a artist to entrepreneur. Like all of these things happen at once, and music and sound for me helped me to get to a really deep inner place. Kind of like it helped me, it kind of holds space for that process to figure out what am I feeling actually and what does it mean. And and I think from that place I started to understand who I am and what should I do. Um, Somehow music and sound is interesting because it bypasses our cognitive defenses. It just goes straight to it. There's been a lot of science around this, and one of the experiments that illustrates this well, if people were shown pretty like horrific pictures or video, but without sound, and they could like see, oh, that's pretty bad, but I have a distance to it. So, but if the sound is on, it just gets to you immediately. And that's kind of the power of it, that it really gets to us.
Yeah, it just like you said, it bypasses and it just makes the experience much more immersive, much more realistic, and probably again, it's when you do that, it paves the way or opens the door for healing much easier because you're able to calm the nervous system, you're able
Hmm.
to fix that dysregulated state that we're currently in, and that's kind of where I want to dive to now because before we use sound or explain how sound heals our bodies. I want to set the stage for our listeners to understand why our body is in such a dysregulated state. So I want to
Hmm.
talk to you like what is this nervous system regulation and how when we're in a constantly hyperactive stressful state, what does that do to our body's ability to heal?
Yeah, that's really foundation. So biology first approach is to really think about it. If we have a nervous system that is in a dysregulation, it means that we are never being able to actually go to that state of safety and digestion where all the homeostasis happens, the self-healing mechanisms, where it also has a effect on our cognitive performance. So when we have a high or low level of stress, it just shrinks our prefrontal cortex capacity, and we're just not making as good decisions as we would be if we would be in a more balanced state. People have, you can see, think about that there's a window of tolerance of our nervous system. On the upper limit, we have the hyper arousal. So, I don't know, continuous TikTok or continuous input and stress, and kind of never really getting a chance to come down. Maybe we even do exercise in order to relieve some of that stress. So we're stressed up here, and then we do like really high intensity exercise to bring it even higher, and then after that, that stress level feels relatively less, but we never actually bring it all the way down. Or then, of course, there's the lower limit where maybe there's more depression or when you feel like lack of energy and things like that. And then you're hypo aroused and you're just like not having energy, basically. So those are the limits. And we want to stay inside of the window of tolerance, but we want to get to the edge because that's where we build the resilience. So that's why also in Olo, the sound journeys are a little bit of a roller coaster that takes your nervous system to the gym because we believe that actually you should learn to let go on top of an dynamic content instead of doing concentration meditation on top of a static content. And we live in a different time than, a couple of thousand years ago when meditation was created. So I believe that we need to like update our tools for the lifestyle of today.
That's interesting. So tell me a little bit why you say we got to take our nervous system to the gym, especially the way that Olo has the sounds, because it takes it from high to low, probably to calm. So
Mm-hmm.
what is that range of sound doing for us?
Yeah, so often we, in this day and age, we get into a free state. A lot of the kind of filling all the gaps of our day with some social media content or input, when we just get focused on this tiny screen, we get kind of frozen just there, uh, passively consuming this. And we actually need more movement in our nervous system. Sometimes we're kind of stuck in this low level of anxiety, and instead we should get it moving. Have experiences that are more significant, that somehow shake things up a bit, but in a safe way. And that's why, you know, when meditation was created a couple of thousands of years ago, we were in a different lifestyle, more physical. And now knowledge work is so much concentration and focus, and we get attention fatigue. And it's kind of like if we trying to do concentration meditation of top of that, it's like trying to exercise a muscle that is super tired already. So we need actually to let go and allow mind wandering to happen. Sometimes we think of mind wandering as the monkey mind, which is the problem. But if we have the right kind of impulse and we can let the mind wander positively, that's actually where a lot of the digesting of what life has happened to us, what is important. That's where our mind kind of puts things into buckets like, hey, and then, when you take a shower in the morning, go for a walk, and often there's a moment of clarity. And that's when you actually allow that mind wandering to make sense of things. And then our subconscious can bring a little package like, hey, Matt, this is actually important. Like from all this noise, this is the thing that matters. Do you get this kind of experiences sometimes when the answer just pops up?
Yes, no, I'm happy you said that because I was on a walk, honestly, not too long ago. And I'm somebody who's like super hyperactive. I'm always doing a bunch of things. But when I actually took that walk, I did no headphones, no phone. I was just walking in nature. And that's when I got a great idea for an addition that we're going to do actually for the Revive Academy that we have. And I
Mm,
remember just being on that walk going, that's a really great idea. How have I not thought about that before? And I guess
yeah.
just being so tunnel visioned, always hyperactive and stimulated, you don't give your brain that breathing room to
Hmm.
give it, or even the space to just say, hey, here, how about this idea? And one thing that I even do want to touch on here too is I had a nervous system healer on the Revive Effect podcast not too long ago, and she was saying a lot of the same things here as when your body is in a constant fight or flight mode, even if that's triggered by constant TikTok, constant Netflix, overstimuli in our very digital age, it's putting your body under chronic stress. And when you're doing that constantly, you don't give your body the space and the breathing room to come back to that homeostasis, to that point where it is calm, to the point where it feels safe. And a lot of people don't understand, like when you're trying all these different modalities to heal your body, the best thing you can do sometimes is just get it back to that place of peace because it knows what to do. And we're
Mm-hmm.
wondering why nothing is working. Meanwhile, we're constantly in the stressed out state. Your body's first mechanism or first plan of motion when it is in a stressful state is to try and bring it back down. But because we don't give ourselves any breathing room or any break, we never open the space for healing, which I think is a really big realization that I would love people to actually just pay attention to in their day to day right now.
Yeah, if there's one thing to walk away with is that your body is intelligent. Like your body is auto-organizing, it's auto-healing, and we need to sometimes just get out of our own way for allow those mechanisms to take place. Create the space for it, create the container. And the key word is safety. If your body feels like safe, if you don't need to be worried about the surroundings and you can actually like let go a bit, then a lot can happen. And I mean, in the age of information, we think that the mind knows its stuff and it's in control, and we just, command center, we just do what we think it's right. But there's so much more intelligence, and it's kind of humbling that sometimes we just gotta zoom out a little bit, take a step, and with that kind of sense of curiosity allow the answer to come to us.
Yes, yes, Marcus, I agree with you. I'm even going to piggyback onto that a little bit, which is why I love what your app does, especially when you say get out of your own way. Because when you plug into Olo and you literally are just waiting there and allowing your body to get down into a nice peaceful state. Like the app literally tells you to not do anything. You're just supposed to be immersed. You're supposed to be present. You're supposed to stop everything that you're doing, or maybe even if you want to take a little bit of a walk, that's fine too at the same time. But the underlying pattern is the same, is the fact that you are being present and you are getting out of your own way and allowing your body to have that space to turn off, to get back to that homeostasis. And I know in our day and age, one of the biggest things that contribute to our hyperactivity, our overstimulation, is this constant pursuit of dopamine. And dopamine, you can get that through number one, multitasking, because all the time you're switching back and forth. Stimulation is synonymous with dopamine. Even TikTok, Instagram, social media, a lot of Netflix, even just being in this constant state of arousal through making your mind work. You never give yourself the chance to go back into that place, like we said before. So yes, you can be stressed out in your environment, but a lot of the time it is self-imposed because we're chasing the dopamine effects that we get from a lot of our day-to-day habits or day-to-day to-do list. What do you think about that?
I think that there's a lot of people that are becoming aware of this and feel like, oh, I've built these habits, digital habits that I'm actually not so happy about now that I reflect on it. Or like there's certain things that I feel like I'd want to change. And then the question is how? Do I buy a lockbox for my phone and I just put it inside of that box and I cannot get to it? Or do I do some kind of digital detox or block out times from my calendar? Like there's this kind of self-preservation mechanisms or things like how do I plan for the weak moments in order to find that balance? Or what could I replace this habit with? Is there something that I could do instead that maybe gives actually what I'm craving for, but doesn't, perpetrate this kind of addiction? I think what happens with this kind of quick dopamine loops and dark patterns is that, first of all, we get desensitized. We have so much intense content that is all the time, trying to maximize the eyeballs, that then it's very hard to get excited about normal things. And it takes maybe a while to then resensitize from that because you used to have this kind of 5 second, um, I don't know, entertainment or something like the next hook, the next hook, the next hook. Uh, it impairs the reward system. So you need to kind of maybe rewire yourself again. Because like every habit, every action you do because of brain plasticity, you just rewiring yourself. It's it's good news because everything is in your hands. Like everything that you do will all the time grow you a new brain and a new nervous system. Um, and then, of course, this affects our decision making capacity. So if we have a dopamine addiction, it affects the prefrontal cortex and making it hard to make decisions, or like impulse control might be impaired. So it's harder to actually make good decisions because you feel like you want to be just impulsive. Um, and then, of course, there's more and more it goes on with compulsive behavior. You might even have withdrawal symptoms, just like any drug addiction and things like that. So I think it is a really real thing. And I think people are more and more aware of it. Personally, the first time I opened TikTok, I got sucked into it and I could feel it and I could feel like, oh shit, this is really dangerous. Like, oh, I got scared of it and I deleted the app immediately. And then later on, I've tried to approach it again, like with a more curiosity. But I think the interesting thing is that even if you know how it's designed and what it does, you can't help yourself. You just fall into it. Like it's designed to catch you.
Yeah, no, it's these apps are usually designed with psychologists to maximize the reward center of your brain, making the apps more addictive. So it makes sense, even though we do know that dopamine is very powerful. So when the anticipation of it is elicited, and we know that we can get a hit, we're gonna go back every time. It's just the way humans are. It's the way our primitive nature is, and that's actually one thing I do want to touch on with your app is because it's designed with all of that not in mind. You wanted to use humane technology. You didn't want to hijack the reward system of the people who use your app, right? Touch on that a little bit, Marcus.
Yeah, we really started from a blank page with the UX and UI, and really asking ourselves, what is the experience that is beneficial? Because a lot of the apps that I looked at a lot of the apps and they look pretty similar to me, and I felt like there's a kind of a playbook that maybe came from social apps that was applied to other verticals and even to health and wellness. But like when we build for health and wellness, we have to ask the fundamental question of what are we optimizing for? Are we optimizing for engagement? And if this is so, is this actually helping the person? Like, is our metric of just like how much time can we get you spending in the app? Or should we actually ask, is it actually helping you in your goals of health and wellness? Does it help you to fall asleep better? Does it help you to take a quick break during the day and be recharged, or getting to flow states or to the zone? And with that in mind, we started really like, what's the minimum possible? And for me, it was the app just needs to launch. Like the only function that you want with the app to start with is that it gets you into an inner experience and you're not stuck with the screen. So still today, Olo is so simple that you just press one button based on the circadian rhythm and your previous feedback. It chooses the experience, the track, the sound journey for you. It fades to black, says close your eyes. There's nothing to look at. There's nothing to get stuck on. And we just want to build you the habit of launch, put the phone away, close your eyes, have a moment with yourself, and afterwards reflect what happened, what does it mean, how can you take this insight away with you to, you know, do for your personal development, or these things like this. And that was kind of simple premise. Like, number one, you don't need to learn to meditate to get to the benefits. The app doesn't ask you a million questions to extract info from you. It's just fastest time to value. It's just deliver the experience. And then second, no choice, no scrolling. You don't need to like, because sometimes you're like, like a Netflix of wellness, you like spend 15 minutes, what should I, and that's making decisions is really stressful.
Hmm.
So we want to take that stress away from you. And then thirdly, the content. Like there is no voice actor reading a script how you should breathe, because I don't believe that that's a lasting value. I just want you to have an experience with yourself, and the best case scenario is that you forget that you're even listening, and you just say what quite a lot of users say, I was somewhere else. So it's just a moment of actually transporting your um, to an inner landscape.
No, I can definitely attest to that because even when I tried the app, right, like there's not a lot of buttons in there to press. There's not a lot of different pages to go explore. It's a very value, like fastest point to value, like you said, and it was a really good experience the first time I went in, and it goes back to what we talked about earlier with those micro moments throughout the day and how
Mm-hmm.
much power that can bring your healing journey, how much better it can just make your brain and your anxiety feel throughout the day. Because a lot of the time when we start our day, we're on till the moment we go to bed. There's no
Yeah.
pause, there's no break, there's no breath. And taking a micro moment, like you just said, again, it just lets you tune in and see where you need attention, maybe where
Mm-hmm.
you're a little bit over flustered. So just talk about what a micro moment is for somebody listening right now so that way they
Yeah.
understand like what does that actual definition look like in their day to day.
So in its simplest form, micro moment can be this. I just notice my body, I notice how I feel, I notice how it feels to breathe. And just that like 3, 5 seconds that I now spend to put my awareness there, I already feel better. Then you can build on that. Okay, you could close your eyes for a moment, take 3 breaths, or you could have a 5 minute session with Olo. Or that, but it's like the idea is that inside a very short time, we can actually regulate our nervous system and kind of cut that buildup of stress where we actually come back to the baseline and feel like we have more space to think, we have more space to do decisions, and we're not having to just um, firefight the next, you know, alarm that is asking us to react on. Um, the idea is that we lower the threshold of taking that moment so low that it could be any moment. Um, and that creates a situation where it doesn't feel like work. Like a lot of wellness today is still performative, and we doing it like not from a place of I feel like doing this, but from a place of like I have to do it in order to build this um, perfect body or perfect mind or perfect health or whatever that kind of seeking is. And instead, I think the driver should be that it makes you feel good, and that's the positive um, reward loop. I think that you do it because you know that it helps to reduce anxiety and stress and attention fatigue, and it opens up capacity. And it's somehow a little paradoxical at first that if you need to achieve something, the best way to get there is actually taking a moment and then go for it. Um, but now we live in an age of AI. A lot of the repetitive tasks are going to be taken gradually by machine intelligence. And the big question for us humans is like, what about us? What's what is the capabilities that we should be built on? And I believe in the future where actually it's about the deep work, where you take a moment, maybe you lean back, even close your eyes, just imagine what do you actually want to do? What's the great idea? What's the best decision to make here? And then you use technology to execute it. And of course, we need human capacity to execute things too. But it's a lot more about knowing what actually makes sense in this moment. And the same is with health. There's so many options here with health and wellness. This supplement, that exercise, this protocol and so on. And they're all great, but they're all one size fits all. How do you know which one is the right for you in the right moment of your journey? And I think that again, the answer there is being able to listen to your body, being able to be awake to like, this actually is what I need right now. Because the difference between medicine and poison is the dosage, and I think the timing too. So we really need to know what's right for us, because fasting might be great for someone, but for someone else, it might completely disrupt their, um, you know, inner systems. And even though it's recommended, doesn't mean that you should go full on for it.
Yeah, I think another key component of what you're saying there, a common denominator, is this concept of awareness. And in those micro moments, or even if you're doing a sound journey on Olo, whether it's 5 minutes, it allows you to tune in to listen to what your body is saying. I know a lot of the times we like to bottle up emotions, we like to bottle up stress and internalize that, but a lot of people don't realize that that actually manifests in the physical body. Whether it could be
Yeah.
through tight jaw, which then, if it's chronic, that can lead to migraines. It can deal with gut issues. Your lower back could be hurting. Those are all signs that your body is in this state of arousal, of chronic stress. And when you're in that moment or that micro moment to just take a breath, you'd be surprised what comes up for you, whether what certain emotions come up or negative patterns and behaviors that come up. It allows you to identify, like, this is probably why I'm feeling this way. Here's probably where I should focus instead, rather than just going throughout our day not tuning in, and we just keep wondering why our body is aching, why we don't feel great. That awareness component is very key in the micro moments. And I did a breathwork workshop on the weekend, and I actually just launched a men's mental health program here at Revive with another psychotherapist. So they were two different modalities in the wellness space. One was in breathwork, one was in mental health. And in both modalities, the instructors, they said emotions and pent up stress, it manifests physically. However, when you use certain coping mechanisms like journaling or just open communication in the men's mental health space or mental health space, you allow that energy to get released. You allow awareness to come up and be like, I need to remove this from my life. Same thing with breath work is when you're tuning in and you're taking that breath work in a place where you're actually present, you can release that stored energy. You can release those stored emotions. And that also paves the way for healing because you're now releasing. You're now tuning in and releasing. So I think to see all of it across different modalities with awareness as the centerpiece, it's a very beautiful thing when it opens the door for healing.
It is. And you said it so well about how emotions affect stress. Um, there's a lot of research saying unfelt feelings are actually a big contributor for stress. It kind of builds up. And it builds up maybe in a way that we don't know what's wrong, but something just feels not right, and it's building up. And I'm also seeing a lot of men's groups these days, and it almost feels like there's a critical mass of men ready to feel, ready to let go of that baggage, which is incredible to see, I think. I mean, women too, but especially it's been on my radar now that there's more and more men's groups. Do you see that happening?
Oh yeah, for men, a lot of us are told to internalize. We're told to bottle up. It's not. We don't really have a safe space to go out and communicate that. But yeah, there's been a ton of gentlemen's groups. There's been a ton, even content on social media because I'm very involved in that space. People coming out and speaking on it in a different perspective. It's actually
Mhm.
quite refreshing because a lot of guys they don't know that other guys go through the same things. So it's just allowing yourself to be in that scenario, to be with other guys that give you that safe space, to just open up and release. It can, again opens the door for more healing because a lot of guys, whether they're dealing with pain in their back, their jaw, their head, a lot of it is because of internalized stress and emotions. It's very juju for people to say we're not going to take it down the conventional medicine approach for whatever you're feeling in the body physically, but when you're doing it from the body first, it can move the needle much faster and much more effective. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's these different manifestations of the problem for different people. So there's different physical or mental symptoms of stress. Physical, it might be shortness of breath, it might be tension somewhere in the body, it might be all of these, and it's good to get to know what are my red flags. Like, when do I know this thing starts happening? I know, okay, now some buildup is happening. It might be a good moment to release some of that.
And you talk about this too, and even in our earlier conversation, with rather than changing the mind first to help change the body, you do the bottom up approach. So that's getting the
Hmm.
body into a more calm, peaceful state to again help that mind make changes and belief shifts in a much more positive and easy way. Dive on that a little bit because a lot of people nowadays start with the mind and then they say that'll affect the body, but you do it the
Hmm.
opposite way. So I'm very interested.
Yes. So essentially, we need to really work with our minds and bodies and heart, our soul, all at the same time. It's really important that we find alignment there. But there's four times more pathways from the nervous system up to the brain than the other way around. So four times more information flows upwards, and so the river flows bottom up, and it's way easier to swim with the current than against it. Um, Mind has this weird idea of thinking that it can solve everything, and sometimes it is actually the problem. So we cannot solve the problem with the same tools as the problem was created. And body body has the way of being able to affect the mind quite fast. And we just need to be able to have those tools and build those kind of habits that when we know that something's off in the mind, we just don't go into that loop or spiral of thinking, but actually we take action and connect with the body and do something that helps us to shift that state. Um, yeah, I think the most important thing is to build certain tools that you can access immediately when the shit hits the fan.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, Marcus, before we wrap up here, I want to do one final question, especially for the skeptics listening right now.
Hmm.
They might be hearing like, "Oh, sound healing." That doesn't, to me, that doesn't sound like traditional medicine, or it doesn't sound like a conventional way to do things. So, I want to know what you would say to even the most skeptical listener right now, how sound healing can really transform your life and your health, as they're listening right now.
Well, I think important is like to maybe even take that word and take it apart a bit because there's a lot of new age type of maybe false promises or exaggerations, and I actually think that sound doesn't heal. Like, you heal your body and mind, and your organism is that does the work. Sound can really help to be the right impulse or create the safe container that does that. And there's thousands of studies showing how sound and music affects the brain and the nervous system. There was even a university that did a randomized control study with the Olo content with 53 people measuring heart rate variability, electrodermal activity, so the nervous system activity, and then psychological questionnaire. And we got a really significant result in all parameters. It's in peer review. So there is like hard evidence of data to show that it works. But at the same time, I've listened 10,000 people talk about their experience either in workshops or using the app and how they got help for anxiety, you know, sleeping problems, or just getting into flow state, getting into better focus. Um, the feedback talks for itself. And I think with everyone, it's like, give it a try because sound is very non invasive. It has really no side effects or no kind of downside in it. So I would just approach it with the open curiosity of like, I'm just curious to see what happens to me. How do I feel? And even if it's just a mirror, just to get to know yourself a little better, that's a huge win.
Yes, it opens the door for healing. It makes the container a safe environment to go do so. I love that perspective shift. especially in the day and age where medicine and science and spirituality kind of all blend together. That's a beautiful way to put that, Marcus. Now, we're finalizing this episode right now, I want to give you the space to say what Olo is, who it can help out, where we can connect with you after, where we can get the app, because this is really great technology I would love to share with my audience. So please have the floor here.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a really great conversation, and feels like we could go on forever. I The main mission of Olo is to create more blue zones in this world where people live longer and healthier and happier. And we're doing it with the app and with community. We have events and we have a retreat center. But the one, if I have to give just one place, that would be olo.app, olo.app. We try to make it as accessible as possible. So our core audience is high achievers who have realized that inner work is going to be the next unlock for them. And people might have different reasons to just have the immediate win of feeling better, but also a lot of people stay because of the social wellness of the community that is gathering around it. And I think this is one of the other huge topic that really helps, is by being in touch with other people on the journey as well. So yeah, that's the most important things to say, and there's a lot more, but what we want is to make it as easy as possible to take that moment. So if you try the app, it doesn't really ask anything from you. It just delivers that first experience right away.
No, that's amazing, and I can definitely resonate with what you're saying because as somebody who's always on the go and really in a stressful state a lot of the time, when I use your app, it really is a nice reset, and it literally only takes a couple minutes. So, listeners, I invite you to check out those links below. I'm gonna link the app. I'm gonna link their personal Instagram just so you can keep up to date with them and all the great announcements. They have some really great stuff going on over at Olo, so I invite you to check those out. Marcus, again, thank you so much for making the space, coming on the show, and diving into this really exciting topic. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. My pleasure.